Good to see you again. You're watching ARIRANG News. It's 4 p.m. here in Seoul. I'm Na Hyun-kyung. Our top story this afternoon, South Korean military officials have concluded talks with the visiting chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff today in Seoul. General Martin Dempsey met with his South Korean counterpart Geunhye and Defense Minister Han Min-gu. Now for more, we go to ARIRANG's Kim Hyun-bin, who's standing by at the Defense Ministry. Hyun-bin, what's the latest?
Hey, Young-gun, a little over an hour ago, there was a briefing here at the Defense Ministry of what the two sides talked about in the Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff. They reviewed preparation for the transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul and ways to bolster Korea-U.S. defense posture.
Now, Hyun-bin, what many wondered about was whether the officials will discuss Washington potentially deploying its missile defense system dubbed THAAD to the Korean Peninsula. Any updates on that?
Well, before the meeting, there was a lot of speculation, but the Defense Ministry said that the two sides did not mention about the issue. Now, speculation was fueled by remarks Dempsey made earlier this week before heading to Japan, the first stop of his Asia tour. Now, he said that one of the key topics on the agenda in Seoul was the building an integrated air and missile defense system, which many people took that to mean that he wanted to discuss the possible deployment of THAAD to the peninsula.
And that very issue has been causing quite a stir for quite some time now in the Northeast Asian region, despite the U.S. explaining that it's aimed at countering nuclear and missile attacks from the north only.
Yeah, South Korea is playing its cards close to its chest because China and Russia is strongly against the deployment. And you can understand their concerns as THAAD would set up a U.S. nuclear and missile system that will be able to shoot down missiles from anywhere in the region. Now, additionally, THAAD's radar system, which has a range of up to 2,000 kilometers, will be able to monitor large parts of the Chinese mainland. Now, South Korea's main concern may be the sheer cost of this system. Now, THAAD is a multi-billion-dollar defense system, and so it's unwilling to shoulder the cost of having it here, now, especially as it's developing its own missile defense system called the Korea Air and Missile Defense.
All right, that was our Kim Hyun-bin reporting live for us from the Defense Ministry. We do appreciate that. In other news, Korea has finally announced its stance on a new China-led regional development bank. It says it will join Beijing's initiative and become a founding member. Now, this is likely to open up immense business opportunities for local companies in infrastructure building projects in Asia while strengthening economic ties with China. Hwang Ji-hye reports.
The South Korean government says it will join the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank that aims to provide low-income countries with the necessary funds for large-scale development projects. And the decision is forecast to largely benefit local construction and telecommunications companies.
The bank will spur a huge demand for infrastructure work in Asia that local companies with extensive experience in construction, telecommunication, and transportation can jump into to meet the demand.
While membership of the AIIB is also expected to enhance South Korea's economic ties with China, many agree it will help Seoul by providing massive amount of funds critical to develop North Korea in case of unification.
South Korea could take a lead in developing the Northeast Asian region, including North Korea, by participating in the AIIB.
Given that this announcement only marks the beginning of this process, attention is focused on how South Korea can secure voting rights that will decide its role in the bank. As Seoul's finance ministry assured that it will do its best to maximize national interest, it added that China is unlikely to get 50% of the voting rights. That due to more than 30 countries deciding to join the bank and more expected to do so. Participants have agreed that voting rights will match with the contributions made, with Asian countries having 75% of the rights. Korea stands as the third largest economy by size after China and India among the Asian nations, but the ministry said it couldn't assure its voting rights will also be the third largest, as many other factors may play a part. Once South Korea is confirmed as a founding member and signs up around June this year, the National Assembly is expected to swiftly ratify the move. Hwang Ji-hye, ARIRANG News.
So how will Korea's decision to join the AIIB influence its diplomatic position teetering between China and the U.S.? Watchers say this could speed up talks over the possible deployment of THAAD. Our Hwang Ji-hye has the story.
Previously, Washington had expressed concerns about the timing of Korea joining the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank as a founding member.
So every government can make its own decision about whether the way to achieve that goal is by joining before the Articles of Agreement are clarified, or by waiting to see what the evidence looks like as the bank starts to operate.
The U.S. State Department reiterated its stance on Thursday, saying it's up to each country to join the new financial institution. Washington took issue with the transparency of the AIIB, saying it must meet the standards of other multilateral development banks. An official at Seoul's foreign ministry said Korea consulted with the U.S. on the matter leading up to its decision. He also said Beijing pushed hard for Seoul to join the AIIB as a founding member, bringing up the issue at every round of high-level talks between the two countries. Pundits say now could be the time to start official talks between Seoul and Washington on the possible deployment of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Battery, also known as THAAD in South Korea. Since Korea sided with China on the AIIB issue, they say it will have to consider the U.S. position on the controversy between its two closest partners. Hwang Ji-hye, ARIRANG News.
North Korea claims to have arrested 2 South Korean spies claiming they worked for Seoul's National Intelligence Service in the Chinese border city of Dandong. Pyongyang's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported late Thursday that the men identified as Kim Guk-gi and Choi Chun-gil are being held on charges related to terrorism and bringing in large quantities of counterfeit money. The KCNA added that Choi was arrested last December while Kim was captured in Pyongyang in September. South Korea's Unification Ministry is calling for their release or their immediate release and says the arrests are a violation of human rights.
Bringing you the fresh updates from stories breaking in Korea and abroad. We give you a bigger and better picture of the world. Join Na Hyung-kyung live from Seoul. Every weekday, only on ARIRANG.
Korea's main rival parties are gearing up for the April by-elections. Now, this will be a good chance for both parties to gauge voter sentiment ahead of next year's general elections. Today, both party leaders made their way to the city of Seongnam, one of the 4 constituencies up for grabs. Park Ji-won tells us more.
The ruling Saenuri Party is in Seongnam to hold a training program for hundreds of regional party members this afternoon. Key members of the party leadership, including leader Kim Moo-sung and Supreme Council members, are attending the program and providing special lectures and education to strengthen the Conservative Party's grip on the region. The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy is also trying to make an impact in the area, holding its Supreme Council meeting there earlier today. After the morning meeting, Liberal Party leader Moon Jae-in reached out to voter groups, visiting a community welfare center and the region's textile industry association. 4 constituencies are up for grabs in next month's by-elections, one each in Seongnam, Seoul, Incheon, and the southwestern city of Gwangju. 3 of the vacancies are due to a dissolution of the far-left Unified Progressive Party late last year for its pro-North Korea party doctrine and activities. The remaining seat was vacated by a Saenuri Party lawmaker who lost his status due to a jail sentence. This by-election is significant for both parties. The ruling Conservative Party holds a majority in the assembly, so next month's vote will function as a test for next year's general elections and serve as a public evaluation of the incumbent administration. For the main opposition, it's a chance to get a reading on public support for the party's new leadership under Chairman Moon Jae-in, who took the reins in March. The by-elections will be held on April 29th. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
An arsonist's attempt to set fire to the Korean Cultural Center in Tokyo may elevate existing tensions between Korea and Japan. Seoul has requested a swift investigation into the incident. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
CCTV footage showed a masked person pouring lighter fluid on the outer wall of the Korean Cultural Center and setting it on fire around midnight on Wednesday. The unidentified person soon fled the scene. There were no casualties or significant damage to the property, except for soot marks on the wall near the center's entrance. The Korean government has expressed dismay over the attempted arson. Officials have called on Japan's foreign ministry to heighten security in the area and asked for a prompt investigation. This is not the first arson attempt on Korean property in Japan. Back in 2013, a man threw signal flares at the Korean Consulate General in Kobe. The motive for the latest arson is still unknown, but Japanese police believe similar negative feelings may have influenced the suspect. And the attempt could add fuel to already heightened tensions between Seoul and Tokyo. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the normalization of diplomatic ties between the two countries, but bilateral relations have been thorny, particularly in regards to Japan's interpretation of World War II history. Despite repeated calls for an acknowledgement of the country's wartime atrocities, many feel the Abe administration has yet to show sincere remorse. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
And it's official now. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will address both houses of the U.S. Congress when he visits Washington next month. The focal point of attention from Korea is whether he will admit and sincerely express remorse for his country's past wartime atrocities. Connie Kim has more.
John Boehner, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, says Abe's address on April 29th will be an opportunity to hear ways to expand economic and security cooperation from a close ally. During his 8-day trip to the U.S. next month, Abe is expected to promote his efforts to revise Japan's pacifist constitution and give his country the right to collective self-defense. In other words, allow Japan to come to the military aid of allies if they come under attack. U.S. officials are hoping to see a breakthrough in trade talks with Japan, in particular in relation to the massive Trans-Pacific Partnership Pact. In Korea, eyes are focused on whether Abe will show remorse for Japan's wartime atrocities during his speech to Congress. The offer to Abe came despite strong efforts by Korean-American organizations to stop him. There are concerns Abe would use the podium to promote Japan as a peace-loving nation since the end of World War II, without mentioning the atrocities it committed during the war. The Abe administration continues to deny state responsibility for the country's past wrongdoings. Korea was a victim of Japan's wartime aggression. It's estimated that some 200,000 women, most of whom are from Korea, were mobilized for work in military brothels during the war. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
And now to the latest on the Germanwings plane crash. Investigators say the autopilot function was reprogrammed to crash the plane on purpose. Citing audio data from the retrieved black box, French prosecutors say the co-pilot deliberately locked the pilot out of the cockpit. Geunhye reports.
The mystery of the Germanwings plane crash may soon be solved, but the more we learn, the harder it becomes to comprehend. Investigators are now saying the co-pilot intentionally put the plane carrying 150 people on a crash course into the French Alps. Data by an aviation tracking website shows that someone reprogrammed the plane's autopilot from 38,000 feet to below 100 feet. That someone appears to be 27-year-old Andreas Lubitz, who apparently was alone in the cockpit before the crash.
The most plausible, realistic interpretation, as far as we are concerned, is that the co-pilot, through voluntary abstention, refused to open the door of the cabin for the captain.
Today, news reached us that this tragedy had gained a new, utterly incomprehensible dimension.
A possible motive surrounds the co-pilot's psychological state, as he was said to have interrupted his flying training for some months. But afterwards, he passed all the tests, including medical checks.
Psychotherapists say his act must have been planned down to the smallest detail. In fact, investigations point to the fact that Lubitz was breathing steadily before the crash. So far, officials say there was no indication it was a terror act. People who knew Lubitz say he was an ordinary person whose longtime dream was to become a pilot.
I cannot imagine that he has done it with intention. This does not fit in this picture I have from him.
Many airlines have responded quickly to the tragedy, introducing strict two-person cockpit rules.
Currently, there is not the requirement to have two members in the cabin. After this order, there will be a requirement to have two members in the cabin.
Back in the Alps, where recovery efforts are continuing in harsh conditions, special flights and buses are taking the families of the victims as close as possible to their loved ones. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
President Park Geunhye says Korea's agricultural and fisheries sector needs to adopt corporate technology, capital, and know-how to become a growth industry and expand overseas. Meeting with the country's farmers, fishermen, and industry heads today, she said Korea's economy is at a turning point and agricultural and fisheries will play a critical role in its future. President Park committed to creating a startup-friendly environment and to develop innovative technologies so that the sector can grow beyond food production and make use of Korea's free trade deals to increase its global competitiveness. Now, if you're in the U.S. and want to get your hands on Samsung's latest smartphone models, the Galaxy S6 series, you don't want to miss this. Pre-orders will start on Friday local time there. The Galaxy S6 will be available for about $200 for a 2-year contract with AT&T, with the Edge priced a bit higher at $300. The unlocked units will cost you somewhere between around $700 to $800. The global release date for the Galaxy S6 series is set for April 10th. Samsung hopes to catch up with Apple's 41% U.S. market share. The Korean company is currently sitting at a 29% share in the U.S. Now, an increasing number of Korean businesses are looking to Latin America for expansion and growth. Companies from both regions are attending this year's Inter-American Development Bank meeting, which kicked off in the southern port city of Busan. Our Shin Se-min files this report.
This local steel product manufacturing company says its business has been hurting. Supplying the shipbuilding and heavy machinery industries has become a lot more complicated.
Cheaper Chinese ships fueling the global market have made supplying the naval industry more competitive, but opportunities like this could help my company expand in the Latin American region.
Un is one of the 3,000-plus participants from a total of 48 member nations gathered at the annual Inter-American Development Bank meeting in Busan. Through one-on-one summits, entrepreneurs are making valuable connections and exchanging business practices.
So it's a very vibrant relationship, and also it's quite a high value-added relationship in terms of Korea. The Korean companies are investing and are producing some of the most sophisticated products in the world.
Trade volume with Latin American countries more than doubled last year to $54.2 billion US, up from a mere $2.2 when Korea first joined the IDB. Direct investment to the region also rose sixfold to $35 billion.
The Latin American market is one that many Korean companies have yet to tackle. Countries there are rich in resources with an annual 6% growth rate. It's the next target market for many Korean businesses, both large and mid-sized.
Although the deals being signed here aren't huge figures yet, the local trade agency believes that it is a progressive first step for many SMEs expanding out to the global market, especially creating trust-building opportunities between the nations. 신세민, 아리랑 뉴스, 부산.
Korea's so-called Marine boy Park Taehwan held a press conference just less than an hour ago. He apologized to the public for his doping scandal. Now he may lose more than his medals as the punishment could affect his chances of participating in the 2014 Rio Olympics. Choking back tears, Park said he never relied on drugs but is sorry for letting fans down. After failing a doping test taken before the Asian Games last year, Park was stripped of 6 medals won after the test, along with his record as the most decorated Korean athlete to compete at the Asian Games. His 18-month suspension was handed down by swimming's governing body, FINA. The ban ends in March next year, but Park is not eligible to represent the national team under the Korean Olympic Committee's current regulation. It bans athletes from competing for 3 years after receiving a penalty. Now, Korea produces over 700,000 tons of slag a year. Now, slag as in the waste from processed iron and steel. Until now, the heaps of slag have been buried underground with no way to reuse it, but that won't be the case in the near future. Our Son Jung-in has this story.
Slag from iron and steel has long been perceived as a nuisance that contributes to air pollution and water contamination. Korea currently buries 720,000 tons of it every year in landfills without any way to recycle it. Now, the Korea Environmental Industry and Technology Institute, along with the R&D Center for Valuable Recycling, have succeeded in developing a technology for turning the waste product into cement.
We freeze the reduced slag using a rapid cooling system. After it is pulverized, we mix it with additional agents to produce cement.
The cement requires less time to solidify. Unlike regular cement that takes almost 20 days to dry, slag cement needs less than 7 days. That means it could be put to use in civil engineering projects such as emergency road work or tunnel repair. Experts have high hopes for the new technology as rapid hardening cement is an industry worth $25 million and it is expanding every year. Currently, Korea imports 80% of its rapid hardening cement.
If we can get the pricing right and further develop the market, it will create significant added value for the economy and be exportable.
Industry experts expect the new technology to lead to an annual savings of $4 million in slag disposal costs and a reduction in carbon emissions of 500,000 tons a year, in addition to creating 1,200 new jobs. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
Welcome back. I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. You can feel the air getting warmer and warmer by the day, but do keep in mind that mornings and evenings are still very chilly, dropping more than 10 degrees from the daytime highs. Now, once again, we have clear skies nationwide, although there is a little bit of fog clearing up as the day gets warmer. Now, meanwhile, dry weather continues to linger with us. Let's check out the weather for the weekend. Now, there is rain in store for the surrounding regions of Seoul on Saturday night. It will expand across some regions on Sunday morning. Now, let's hope this rain offers a little relief from the dry weather. Now, taking a closer look at the readings for today, Seoul will get up to 17 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern regions such as Gwangju and Busan will hit to 20 and 18 degrees. Moving over to other regions, Jeju Island will get up to 15. Dokdo hits a bit higher at 17, while Mangungang drops down high at 8 degrees. That's all for now, Michelle Park, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that's a wrap from us at this hour. I'm Na Hyun-kyung in Seoul. We'll be back with more updates at 6 p.m. Korea time.